Hi guys, my name is Roger, and ever since I was a teenager, I've always wanted to build my own car. I started this channel to see if an average person, like me, can design and build their own mid-engine car. If you like what you see here in my videos, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you know someone who you think might be interested in my videos, please share the videos with them. I'll be adding a new video every week, and with that out of the way, let's get started with this week's video. want to show you what I'm working on here. Making this trim piece here to cover the bottom of the firewall and give it some strength here across. And it does a couple of things. I took it to work today and pressed the PEM studs in. You can see these PEM studs are flush and they stick through and bolt all of this together across. And I had to cut and notch and weld a piece on here for clearance around this power steering fluid cap. And the cap can be removed and put back in. It's a little tight, but it does come out and go in. And I mean, how often do you really add power steering fluid to a car? It's very rare, so that shouldn't be an issue, even though it is a little tight. And on the other side, I have welded and made a mount here for the coolant filling cap, and add the water and coolant to the engine and radiator system. And you can kind of see how the hose are going to be routed. All of this is most likely going to be hidden anyway in some trim panels in the engine bay, but you will have access to this cap pretty easily. And also been working on some Delrin bushings here. I had metal to metal and I wanted to isolate that so I don't have noise and sound transferring into the frame of the car. They can really, you have metal to metal to the engine and transaxle, you can get a lot of noise into the cabin of the car. So I drilled and opened this hole up to a 1/2 inch, put some Delrin bushings on both sides, and I have that all sandwiched together so there is a Delrin bushing between the bolt and the mounting bracket. So now there is either plastic or rubber or Delrin or something between every mount going to the engine and the transaxle, and hopefully that'll keep everything nice and quiet. Also, I have drilled and I guess kind of counterbored a hole and pressed these PEM studs down in here a little ways until I can get them recessed and make them long enough to function. And I've put some epoxy on the top of the holes to let it set up overnight. And I'll come back tomorrow and clean the tops of these off a little. They're basically flush, but I'll scrape them down so they're exactly flush. And I want to try these two panels and make sure that's going to work like I'm hoping it will. And if it looks like it's going to work, then I'll do the same thing to this large panel here, to all of these fasteners, and then to the top of the bulkhead here for the fasteners here that go into the mounting tabs. That way everything will be flush, so when the upholstery goes on it, it'll be nice and smooth, and it makes these PEM studs long enough to stick through the back the correct length and work, where if they weren't recessed slightly, they wouldn't quite be long enough. And that's the longest PEM studs that they make for this size and thread, with the splines on them that would grab and capture this masonite where I think it wouldn't spin and give trouble in the future. So we'll come back tomorrow and check on those and see how they work, and if everything looks good, we'll do it to the other two panels. And I think I'm done for tonight, and we'll pick up tomorrow and continue on. Well, my camera battery died yesterday, so you missed seeing me do a couple of things. One thing I was doing was taking this firewall in and out 2 or 3 times and fitting it and testing these PIM studs that I had pressed in and glued in. You can see they're flush. They're actually recessed some, and then I filled the tops in with epoxy and scraped them down smooth. That should help hold them in place and hopefully keep them from rotating. So you didn't miss a whole lot there. The other thing that I accomplished was I took the mount apart for the old gear shifter and made new mounts for the new gear shifter, and have this plastic 3D printed part assembled into the car. And I needed to do this so I could measure how long of cables I needed to reach from the gear shifter to the transaxle. And I did take that measurement, and 7 feet long cables seem to be what I need. So I'm going to get 2 of those ordered, and hopefully I'll have everything here to install the shifter once the parts are machined and I have actual aluminum parts. But I think the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and finish up this bottom piece of the firewall, get it put back in, put the seats back in, and just test this shifter, see how it feels as far as the throws and the travels with the seat in the car. And I guess let's get started on those things. Well, I finally put these two rear braces on. I made some attach points here. I welded these on and cut these tubes to length, welded the ends on them, and I have them bolted in place, at least temporarily. And you can kind of see how that brace runs from the strong structural corner here of this roll cage hoop. These pieces almost align perfectly, so that makes that a pretty strong joint and transfers a little bit of strength down to this rear frame from deflecting up and down, at least hopefully. That was the thought behind this anyway. But that's what this looks like. And the next thing on my to-do list was going to be putting exhaust manifolds and turbos and working on the turbo system. But it hasn't arrived yet. It's running late. I called. They said it would ship today. I'll call tomorrow and verify if it did or did not. But I'm going to have 2 or 3 days before it arrives that I need to find some work to fill in with. So I'm going to look around and see what small jobs I can do until the turbo gets here. I know one thing that I need to do is mount these 2 air conditioner condensers up here in the front between the radiators. I need to figure out exactly where I'm going to put them and fabricate a mount and mount those. So that is one thing on the to-do list. Have these condensers laying here in the floor. You probably remember those from a past video. But that is definitely on the to-do list, and not quite sure what else I have beyond that just right now. Still waiting on shifter parts. That's probably going to be a day or two. Actually, shifter cables and rod ends will be here tomorrow or the next day, so we can start running shifter cables and working out the linkage for the shifter. And even though I don't have actual aluminum shifter parts yet, I can hook these cables up to this 3D printed plastic parts and test and make sure everything shifts correctly. These plastic parts are strong enough, if I'm not too rough with them, that they would survive, and where we could shift gears and test that all the linkages and the cables were the correct length, and all of that could be verified before we have aluminum parts to finish out the shifter. But I guess that's going to be about it for this week, and I'll see you guys again in 1 week.